we use the mills for what people are just not wired for. People are not wired for doing the same thing hundreds and hundreds of times, really, really precisely. We're just not wired for it. We're wired for figuring it out and then setting something up to do it in an easier way. Having said that, there's a little bit of a, for people who haven't run mills, there's a little bit like, oh, they use CNC. That makes everything easy. Let me tell you, it doesn't. It creates a whole nother set of problems. I will tell you what it does. It locates holes all the time, 100% of the time, exactly where they're supposed to be. There are a million other problems it creates that we chase. I would say the work that goes in to CNC making parts is every bit, it's way more sophisticated than doing it by hand. And it requires a ton of work to get the first one done. But then after that, you can make a bunch of them the same way. But it's a ton of work making it. So I run Haas machines here. We've got a router and we've got a Hanwha for making Swiss parts. And I just want to talk to you about the machine shop a little bit. So every knife we make either has a G10 scale on the handle side and a titanium spring, or it has a titanium handle and a titanium spring. Every one of those handles is made here in our machine shop. Also, every single blade we make, whether it's a flat washer knife or it's a thrust bearing knife or whether it's a ball bearing knife, every blade we make, the holes have been located on it here on the CNC. It's the only way to really get everything perpendicular and parallel. And we chase crazy little tiny tolerances. To give you an idea, this is how we used to do it. This is an old setup right here. So an old setup, it's got some pins. We've done the setup on the plate. We pull a home location, a G54 or G55 home location off of it. We clamp some parts down and we run them on here, okay? That's the way we used to do things. And this is good for some stuff, but it's not great for making a lot of anything. Our next generation, we started doing subplates. So we made our own subplates with precision pins and hardened precision feet, all ground, well put together. And this is our subplate that we use for everything now, our new stuff. So our new stuff are like those aluminum plates, but they come in here and they set in these cradles, and it allows us to do setups really fast. So we have a subplate and then we have a fixture plate. Come on. If you look in here, you'll see that I've got two fixture plates in our subplates. They're clamped, they're held in place by these Destaco clamps. And we're running the Micro Praetorian here. We're running, what are they running? They're running, must be the clip over, yeah, it's the clip for the Micro Praetorian here. And then we've got Micro Praetorian handles and springs. So now you'll see on the bottom of these aluminum plates is a hardened precision ground footprint that mates up. You'll see hardened precision ground sub part plates. So now everything's held in place. These clamps all move in and out and are loaded up so they locate precisely. And now we near net our parts. We make them slightly oversized so that we mill down the exterior, because the water jet's got that taper and it's not that precise. So every single part, after being cut and tumbled and surface ground or double disc ground, it now comes into here, and now we've taken this piece of metal that has all this variance to it, and we've given two sides precision, parallel, and flatness. Then we put them on here. We make the sides square to the faces, and we make all the holes perpendicular to that. It means that every surface on your knife has been controlled and shaped for a consistency of end result. So when you get down here, you'll see one of the guys, they're slinging some parts after a setup's been done, to putting a feature on a knife that I wanted to correct after the fact. You look over here and you see on this is our Datron router. This machine's a persnickety pain in the ass, but I'll tell you what it does. It keeps all this nasty dust controlled in the environment, and then we suck it into a big air filter in here. This allows me to make these G10 parts or carbon fiber parts and not have any of my craftsmen breathe this material. And we're able to program it in such a way that we can maximize our material, and we really get a part that looks like it was hand finished, which means it matches all of our other stuff, which does get hand finished. At any given time, you'll see the parts we're running, they're laid out here, and they've been pre-cut and softened. They may have a hole in the middle so that we don't have to mill so much material out. And then you'll see a set of go, no-go pins, prints, key features, the tool layout, and we're working on having a real kind of more formal engineering packet with everything, but when you're doing what we're doing, you're really kind of rebuilding the boat while you're at sea. I've got this little business cranking along here, cutting through the water, and in the meantime, we're building a bigger boat right around it that does things more efficiently and better. So this is my prototype mill down here. Every single knife we make goes through a prototype stage where we have to proof out the tooling. That's all done on this mill. See over here, we've got our own tool design happening in-house, all done in SolidWorks. Our code is generated in FeatureCam. There's an amazing amount of tools. There's an amazing amount of craftsmanship. Every single part when it comes off then has to get hand lapped to knock off burrs. It's got to get deburred. It's got to have holes deburred. All sorts of things that you can't really program into the CNC. All has to get done to it before it leaves. You'll see us with razor blades cleaning out the spring slot from any burrs from the milling. And then over here, you'll always come over and see complete knives stacking up. This is the stuff we go through as we're proofing out, getting stuff along the way. It's crazy to say, but over the course of a year, hundreds and hundreds of complete knives made and put together that get us dialed into an end result. It's pretty challenging. And you'll see hundreds of knives that look like they're perfect. Like, guys will say, I'll take that. It's a second. I'll take it. And they're just not what we want, not something we want to have leave here and get sold on eBay and turn into another problem. We're always, everyone has to deal with me experimenting with, I want to do new finishes or new things or new features. That's one of the challenges, because the knife business in many ways is a fashion business, and I've got to launch new cool things to keep everybody interested and stay relevant. So we're not just making widgets, we're making stuff that people have to like the way it looks, and I've got to change the way it looks over time. So this is the machine shop. Down here, you'll see this is where the guys on the fly can adjust code, add features, do little custom things for me. Down there is where we kind of engineer our base product, and then when we get over here, this is where we do a lot of tweaking and adjusting for my own kind of personal taste. There's 4 guys who work in this department full time. There's a lot of overtime that gets thrown at this department over the course of a year. A lot of work and a lot of technology all cranking here at the same time. So it is a big step that the handles and the blades take before they go to all the handwork that makes it that warm, lovely feeling tool that you're used to getting your hands on. Having all of this here in-house is a huge amount of responsibility and technological undertaking, but it also gives us creative control and freedom throughout the whole process. This is our Swiss style turning center. This is a 7-axis CNC lathe, and it's not on right now, and much to my chagrin, I have a friend of mine here in Phoenix who's cranking parts for me right now because I don't have the manpower to throw at this while we're retooling. Remember when I said you're kind of building a ship around the boat you're sailing at sea in as you grow a little company? Sometimes you have to kind of mothball things and say, I don't have the energy for that while we're in growth mode, and this is one of those items. So we make our own hardware, but right now we're not making our own hardware. It's being made about 20 minutes from our shop. You know, you make these parts and then you have to check them, and checking them requires a whole other set of tools and approaches to chase these crazy tolerances. To give you an idea, and those of you who are in aerospace, some guys will bluster at this a little bit, but most stuff in aerospace is plus or minus a couple thou, or -0 +3. There's very little in aerospace that's plus or minus a half. On a there might be a couple of things on any given jet that have that kind of tolerance. We're operating on inside of a half a thou on everything we do, and then at the end we have to blend everything together by hand lapping. There's no tolerance for any error. The machines, their temperature from the beginning of the day to the second half of the day varies the size of a part. A thousandth of an inch, your average human hair is 3 3/4 thousandths of an inch thick. So a thou is almost a quarter of a human hair, and we operate in tenths of one of those. So it's a very small amount of variance and a very small close tolerance that we're chasing. And it's because there's almost nothing in aerospace where some crazy collector is going to open it and close it 100 times a day, or get it in the mail and listen to it and go like, feel, does it have a little funny little tiny thing happening? Or if you breathe on it, it acts like this. Or if I lay it on the dash of my car in the heat, it acts funny. There's very little in aerospace that's like that. Yeah, the only thing that I know that's like that is jewelry. And so we have people crawling up our mechanical mechanisms with a taste for jewelry and finesse that requires a lot of us. And what most makers do is they don't chase those crazy tolerances, and some do, and I'm one of the ones who does. It's a little maddening. It drives everybody a little crazy, including me, but that's one of the reasons I have the machine shop in-house here at MKT. So Greg Medford from MKT and Medford Knife, and that's the machine shop.